I went to Jackson Hole, Wyoming in September of last year for a vacation. It was my first vacation in 6 years I've taken, my first solo trip I've ever taken in my life. It was right after I launched, I believe, my second offer last year. I'd have to think about where I was at. It was in like the middle of I left corporate America a couple weeks before, or a couple months before. I was, running my business. I was starting a new offer, doing all these things, getting coaching from a lot of people, helping people out, hopefully, planning my client event, all these things. And I felt like it was the only time I was going to have in the foreseeable future to get away for a bit and to take a vacation for a bit. So I went to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And I said, I don't want to go, do I want to go out to California? Do I want to go to Mexico? Do I want to go to, Virgin? Do I want to go somewhere? And I'm like, okay, it's September. It's not going to be great beach weather really wherever I go, even though, beaches are going to be fine. I'm not really a beach person, to be honest with you. I don't like the heat, which is ironic because I live down in Texas. I stay in my AC as much as I can, believe me. And I want it to be in nature because all of my work, like I mentioned earlier in my opening monologue, I am a knowledge worker. I'm in the online digital creator economy space. And so I am glued to a computer all day, basically. And I want to just say like, okay, enough. I want to leave. I want to get away from things. I want to get in nature. I want to get, the way I phrase it is that I want to get into creation. I want to get into God's creation. I want to experience creation. And what better place to do that in some ways than some place like Jackson Hole, Wyoming? Middle of nowhere. Is it, hub for hedge fund managers who want to, bang waitresses at the bars? Yes, it is. But it's more of an uppity town, with kind of people that are like, oh my gosh, like I'm cool with paying for $12 ice cream. I wear North Face, wherever I go, all those sorts of things. But I went and it was really fun and it was great. And so I remember I was in Jackson Hole. I think I did 4 nights there. I think I was traveling for 5 days. I stayed there for 4 nights. So it was good. It was a good vacation. It was just a little too long for me. I don't like to do vacation for very long. If I do a week-long vacation, I am just a mess by the end of it. I wanted to leave 3 days earlier. I don't like it. I like being in my routine. I like my life that I have here. But I remember I was in Jackson Hole. I think it might have been the last or second to last night. And there was a restaurant that I wanted to go to in Jackson Hole, and it was about like a mile and a half away from my hotel. I think I did like whitewater rafting or something before then, which was fun. And, so I wanted to go out and get I wanted to have like game and meat. And I wanted to have like experience the wild country, whatever, in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. So I'm like, okay, gonna go get some elk, gonna go get some bison, gonna get a steak along with it. I'm gonna have, a couple old fashions, which by the way, best old fashioned, the Gun Barrel Saloon in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. No one's watching this, but if you're watching this, get their old fashioned. It is one of the best, if not the best old fashioned. And I'm a connoisseur of old fashions, by the way. It is the best old fashioned I've ever had in my life. Was at that saloon. I had like 3 of them. So that says about anything. I don't even drink that much. So that was great. But when I was walking over to the gun barrel, gun rifle, whatever it is. So I was walking over to the steakhouse and I get a text message from a friend. And so reached out recently. He's younger than I am. And it was a really funny question. He predicted, or not he predicted, he asked a question because he's like, dude, I have no idea what's going on in the world right now. I need some guidance here. I need to have, I don't know who's telling me the truth. I don't know who to believe. I don't know what to believe. Please help me. And I said, okay, we had a really kind of frank discussion about kind of like, who can you get the truth from nowadays? Because unfortunately, he, like a lot of young people now, and I think he's like probably 7 or 8 years younger than I am, he is unfortunately finding it very hard to trust what anyone says, which is a very legitimate concern. I think a lot of people have this issue right now. So the bottom line with all of this, with this whole narrative we're having around plants and narratives and all these type of things, you need to find people who will tell you the truth. That is absolutely critical. It is not an option. You need to find the truth tellers out there, particularly with all the plants out there that are discouraging the truth. And the best example of this, in my estimation, is Jason Whitlock. If you are a top-performing, high-earning man in a corporate job, I have a free gift for you, the Value Economist Handbook. In this book, you'll find a bulletproof, crystal clear, and step-by-step roadmap to build your values, systematize them into an unbeatable portfolio, and leverage them to create an unshakable identity that leads to fulfillment, meaning, and purpose. So, if you want a free copy, go down to the description below, fill out your information, and we'll send one over to you right away. Now, let's get back to today's video. Jason Whitlock, I have long believed this, is the most important commentator in America, which is a bold claim to make because there are a lot of commentators, including myself, inside of America. But when I want to get a truly unique, truly fresh take on something, I go to Jason Whitlock. So Jason Whitlock, for those who don't know, he has a great show called Fearless on the Blaze. I'm actually going to, when this airs, it'll be next Monday. I'm going to be seeing and meeting Jason Whitlock again that Friday at the Roll Call Conference in Nashville. So if you are a man of God who wants to, go out and commune with other men and see a bunch of people speak and all those things and just have fellowship, I'd recommend Roll Call in Nashville. It was a great event last year. I can't wait to go again this year. Tucker Carlson is actually going to be speaking at it. Going to be linking up with Tucker again, which would be great. So essentially, but Whitlock, for those who don't know, has been on the inside and seen the rise of sports media, which has been a wild industry for a long time. Again, we're going to talk more about that next week. He's been inside of all the biggest institutions. He's founded the Undefeated ESPN, big writer at ESPN, an award-winning sports writer, big column and big show on FS1 right after Colin Cowherd went there. And Jason gets a lot of hate, especially since he went into the commentary space, the more commentary space from everything. And especially since he started working for the Blaze, which I understand to a degree, because Jason says a lot of wild stuff sometimes. But the reason why he does is not for the reason that people think. Because I think a lot of people they have all these reductive and simple arguments because Jason Whitlock, for those who don't know, is a black man. And so Uncle Tom, you're a coon, you're all these sorts of things. Like you hate black people, which I don't think is true at all, even because Jason is not a hateful person. I genuinely don't think he's a hateful person, but he's criticized the black community a lot. He's criticized the Christian community a lot. He's criticized, a lot of different things. And that's his job. He's a cultural critic. But I think the reason why I'm so drawn to Jason Whitlock and why the audience is so drawn to Jason Whitlock is that the scales aren't, he says this all the time, the scales are now off his eyes. And he is a very biblical man. And he's had a faith for, I think, all of his life, but now he's really gotten into it because he has realized, which is, I think, a very important thing to say as well, that the only way that the world makes sense predominantly is through a biblical worldview. And so he knows that he has screwed up his life in a major way. And I think the reason I trust Jason Whitlock and why the audience trusts and respects Jason so much is that he is the most repentant commentator I have maybe ever seen. And what I mean by that is that he talks about how he's screwed up his life all the time. Like I blew this relationship with this girl. I was an idiot. I was a degenerate. I'm fat. I've screwed up my entire life. I should have been married 30 years ago. I should have married that girl. And now I've screwed up all this sort of thing. And I'm like, wow, like that's really, really big honesty from somebody, or big level of honesty from somebody that has really no reason to be that honest. But Jason is, and I'm very grateful to him for that. But the reality is, for all of the hate against Jason Whitlock, the one thing you cannot say is that he has been ahead of the curve on every major cultural point and argument we are hashing out today on this show and today in our culture. He was so going back to the Megyn Kelly example, he was one of the people that told Megyn Kelly, outside of Matt Walsh, who I also love, to her face, that if you call a trans person the gender they identify with, they say their preferred pronouns, you are lying. He said that, and then Megyn pushed back on him, and Megyn has now been militant on the trans issue, which has been awesome. But he basically said, like, they were talking about Leah Thomas or something, and Megyn was like, well, it's like not polite, and then he's like, Megyn, she has a penis, or he has a penis, and then it's kind of like the whole thing was like, whoa, like that sort of thing. And so he's done that, and he's been way ahead on that issue. He was actually responsible for Tucker Carlson, who they've been friends for a long time. He was basically the catalyst for Tucker diving deeper into his faith and talking about spiritual warfare. He was the only person to call out, with the balls to call out Patrick Bet-David as a plant and a grifter and a charlatan, which all of those things he is. He called out Jeremy Boring by making him give up his cards just days before he was fired. He's called out Stephen A. Smith, blatantly lying about his book, and conservatives giving an opportunity to get taken in serious in politics, all these things. So he is just tossing the land. He's just blowing all the landmines up. He's blowing up the spots of everybody. And so, and Jason can be that type of person. He can be the bad guy because, in my opinion, he's the bad guy to himself a lot. And he's very repentant. He's like, I am not better than these people. I'm not better than anybody. And I'm just the only one that's willing to be honest and call out and call a spade to everybody else, and to my face and to their face. So what I want to tie up with this, it's not just a point about how important Jason Whitlock is, and he is very important in my opinion. But people like Jason Whitlock. So when you're looking for honest people, maybe to answer my friend's question, when you're looking for honest people, look at people who are standing not for what they believe, but for righteousness. Look at people who stand for righteousness and cling to righteousness. So and the way that you test this is when the plants and their backers swarm to them. They go to righteousness when they are attacked. So this is why Andrew Tate is a fraud and a charlatan for the most part. Because what Tate does when he's attacked is that he just calls people names and he's like, you're a cuck, whatever. And it's like, fine, like that might be true. But like, do you go to a place, like Jason goes to the Bible, he goes to scripture, he goes to values, which is what we all should do. We're all value-driven people if we're watching this channel. Values should be the place you go when things get tough. You shouldn't go to name calling. You shouldn't go to this. And if someone needs to be called a name that is true, call them the name that is true. And so I think that overall and in general, the honest people are the ones that call these things out. And they go to righteousness when they are attacked for calling out the narrative. They go to righteousness first. And that is the way I believe you tell a truly honest person from a truly dishonest person.